Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are going to continue with the Adeptus Mechanicus, picking up where we left off with Riza, Furnace of Shackled Stars. The forge world of Riza has been plunged into the abyss of war. The planet was famous for supplying containment fields and plasma weaponry. The Layman Russ Executioner and the Stormblade Super Heavy Tank were born within its armor cradles. However, since Riza found itself bearing the brunt of not one but two major wars, the planet has turned every cannon, stubber, and bullet to an all-out battle for survival. In truth, the tech priests of Riza welcome the opportunity to see the creations in action firsthand. Riza's Skitari, alongside the warmongers of the Legio Crucius and the Astra Militarum's Catachan regiments, have taken righteous pleasure in turning Riza's most devastating weapons upon the orcs of Waz, Grax, and Rarguts. Every vault and were crypt has been raided, every gun reliquary broken open. Trans-dimensional beamers light up the night, Gatling macro cannons roar their fury, and writhing lava hoses spew hot death into the streets. To set foot upon Riza is to see a vision of war unbound, and the violent industry of the Adeptus Mechanicus unleashed on a worldwide scale. Despite the preponderance of ordnance and experimental weapons, much of the fighting on Riza has come down to close quarters. The Forge World defenders, from Skitari to hulking Castellan robots, have all earned a reputation as particularly fierce combatants. And to think that Starfleet uses this planet for recreation. Blasphemers, hissed Rust Stalker Princeps 3-6 for the 100th time that day. He swept a metal finger towards the orcs teeming through the arches. No matter their number, we prevail. Red, Incog, and Claw. Red, Incog, and Claw. His fellow Sicarians echoed dully. They were a miserable bunch, only really happy when carving apart the flesh of the Omnissiah's foes. Lucky for them, that was something Riza had in plenty. The ground vibrated, sending the Sicarians skittering like pond skater insects. A dull roar filtered through the devotional psalms 3-6 liked to play to himself when the killing began. It grew to a thunderous shout, and as 3-6 cocked his head, as he made the calculation, 6,834 greenskin warriors poured down the steps of the Mecha-Potentate Basilica. Praise be, 3-6 shouted as he bounded up to the shoulder of a fallen statue. He leapt into the air, Riza's wan sunlight gleaming from his weaponized frame, before plunging his transonic blades into the armored orcs at the forefront of the greenskin charge. Behind him, his Killclade followed suit. Heads rolled, orc limbs flew in arcs of blood. Truly, thought 3-6. It was a fine day to be a tool of the Omnissiah. The illuminated R of Riza is borne proudly by its warriors. This icon incorporates the skull and cog of Mars, a nod towards Riza's ancestry. The ochre armor plates and robes worn by Riza's warriors are the same hue as the immense rust dunes that bestrew the planet. As with many Forge worlds, Riza's Skitarii often bear the purity seal of blood wax and parchment to signify their freedom from harmful scrap code. Seniority within the priesthood of Riza is indicated by the use of crimson on robes and armor. The more red a tech priest wears, the more superior he is considered to be. Red also features sparingly on the warriors of Riza, often appearing on the lining of robes or on components of war machines. Copper is used as an embellishment, particularly on weapons like the Fulgurite's electroleash staves, or mechanical adornments like the tech priest's mechadendrite harness. Though the Legio Cybernetica of Riza displays many thousands of variations in heraldry, all its robots bear combinations of ochre, deep red, silver, and black. Each Maniply's distribution of color is echoed by the uniform of its assigned Cybernetica data smiths. Triplex Fall, Forge of the Eastern Frontier. Far to the galactic east of Terra lies the Forge world Triplex Fall. Located in the furthest reaches of Ultima Segmentum, in the eastern fringes, this Forge world has grown autonomous through long periods of isolation. The tech priests of Triplex Fall have discovered many pockets of worlds on the outskirts of the galaxy, settled during the Age of Technology. Many of these lost colonies were night worlds, such as Grim and Roland, and no few of them yielded technological secrets such as caches of old STC designs, or unique archaeotech created in mankind's golden age. A great many Triplex Fall designs appear throughout the weapons and equipment of the Astra Militarum, and their fabrication secrets have never been shared. Even delegations from Mars have been forced to return to the Red Planet empty-handed, or with blueprints that they soon discover are missing vital details. Although Triplex Fall pays homage to Mars like all other loyal Forge worlds, this disobedience has prompted Mars to permanently deploy several Skitarii legions to accompany Triplex Fall's explorator fleets and alert the Red Planet should further rich veins of technology be discovered. The tactic has proved fortuitous as Triplex Fall has suffered a series of invasions, and the extra troops greatly assisted in the Forge world's defense. First, a splinter of Hive Fleet Kraken was eradicated, followed by a concerted attack by a plague fleet led by Typhus, and finally a demon incursion. All three attacks made planetfall, but were driven back before the foes could establish firm beachheads. This success was in part thanks to Triplex Fall being home to the Titan Legion Legio Victorum, and having the support of over a dozen knightly households. Deimos, the gift of the Sigillite. Upon the inception of the Grey Knights, the secret chapter of Space Marines tasked with directly combating the demonic threat, it was recognized that they would need their own Forge world. Using arcane technologies, Deimos, one of the heavily industrialized moons of Mars, was stolen out of its orbit and secretly relocated above Titan, the shrouded homeworld of the Grey Knights. Since that time, the weapons required by the Emperor's demon hunters have been produced by the manufactorums of Deimos. This includes standard Adeptus Astartes armaments, as well as all the specialist gear required to combat warp-based foes, from psi-cannon ammunition to deadly psych-out grenades. Each item receives psychic wards atop the blessings of the Omnissiah to ensure protection against demonic taint. The handover of Deimos forged war gear is carried out by especially debilitated servitors whose scant minds and circuitry are scrubbed clear after each transaction. Such extreme measures ensure that the secrets of the Grey Knights can never be learned by the tech priests, and, conversely, that the psychic Grey Knights cannot themselves glean any of the clandestine mysteries of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Deimos is blessed with a great many macroclades, all bearing the triple blessing of the Omnissiah. Additionally, no fewer than 3 knightly houses are permanently stationed upon Deimos, including House Steel, whose vows of silence in service to the Adeptus Mechanicus have lasted since the Great Crusade. Deimos's armies are used as guardians, as procurement forces, and upon request are sent to march forth in battle alongside the Grey Knights. Vos Prime, the right hand of Mars. Founded during the Age of Technology, Vos Prime was reconnected with Mars during one of the warp storm lulls of the Age of Strife. By the time the Great Crusade reached Vos Prime, they found a thriving Forge world modeled after and allied to Mars. Since that bygone era, Vos Prime has continued to churn out armaments for the Imperium's armies and fleets, a record of service that cannot be matched by any save Mars itself. Home to the Titan Legion Legio Invigilata, Vos Prime's production numbers have soared thanks to their aggressive exploitation of the nearby asteroid fields, known as the Morden Belt, that surround their subsystem. Asteroids have also proven an effective defense for the planet. Even the Orc fleets that rampaged for so long across the nearby Armageddon sector could not navigate the floating debris, and the wreckage of thousands of their ramshackle craft floats amidst the element-rich rocks. The demons that swarmed out of the warp storms, however, proved another matter. Only Vos Prime's unmatched ability to repair their Legio Cybernetica and replace their servitors allowed them to weather the successive waves of invaders. Despite the attacks, the Manufactorium of Vos Prime continued to roll armored vehicles, weapons, and ammunition off their assembly lines at rates few could hope to match. Across the Imperium, Vos-patterned vehicles are much revered, although their plasma weapons have rightfully gained a dire reputation. Despite their vaunted output capacity, Vos Prime has less success at replicating plasma technology than other Forge worlds. That they have not asked for aid, and that it has not been offered, is indicative of the pride and secrecy that exists even amongst the most devout of the cult Mechanicus. Griffon IV, the Lost Forge. Before the arrival of Hive Fleet Leviathan, the Forge world of Griffon IV had a storied history. Founded during the darkness of the Age of Strife, Griffon IV quickly rose to power. By the time the Great Crusade arrived in what would become Segmentum Tempestus, the Forge world controlled the Griffon Octad, 8 star systems rich with mineral wealth. Its Titan Legion, the world-breaking Legio Griffonicus, fought alongside the Space Marine legions to earn great victories. Over the millennia, the defenses of Griffon IV were built up until they rivaled those of Mars itself. So formidable were its fortifications that the tech priests refused to abandon their industries, even when it became clear that the Forge world lay in the direct path of Hive Fleet Leviathan. Instead, they shored up their walls, certain that the Tyrannid waves would break against them. The armies of Griffon IV fought with consummate skill, yet the Xenos invaders were unrelenting. One after another, the Adeptus Mechanicus guns were silenced, the defense lines shattered. At last, even the Titans were dragged under. Griffon IV was stripped bare, a grim testament to the folly of pride. The tale of Griffon IV does not end with a barren orb, however. When the outcome of the battle was beyond doubt, a handful of tech priests fought clear with a few battered cohorts, extracting vital blueprints with which to remake their lost Skitarii legions. They vowed to build a new Forge world and continue the Omnissiah's work. Traveling across the torn Imperium, they seek a new homeworld. Even a few Titans escaped, but the mechanical gods of battle were last seen fighting upon Cadia, their final fates unknown. The ever-faithful. The cohorts of the Legio Cybernetica have marched to war in the colors of their Forge worlds for 10,000 years. But the Castellan robots themselves are older than the Imperium, and some call no single Forge world home. Bands of these itinerant war machines may appear in the battle congregations of the cult Mechanicus, their arrival unheralded and taken as a sign of the machine god's favor. They will allow themselves to be directed by local tech priests until the battle is won, after which they disappear once more, perhaps for centuries at a time. Mechanicus Knights. Through mutual oaths and unbreakable vows, the Adeptus Mechanicus have forged alliances with many Knight worlds. In return for technical aid and reciprocal protection, these Adeptus Mechanicus aligned houses, or Knights of the Cog as they are sometimes known, send forth their adamantine knight suits to honor any request made by their allies. Knights are not mere war machines, but relics from a lost age, armored giants from a forgotten era. One does not drive such an heirloom, it must be bonded with. Only a noble from an ancestral knightly house may have such an honor. During a strange and terrible rite known as the Ritual of Becoming, the noble fuses his mind with the machine spirit of the knight, a union of flesh and metal. Only then can the noble truly occupy the throne mechanicum, the seat of control from which he uses his mind to command the towering knight. The first Knight worlds were founded at the dawn of the Age of Technology, but became lost and isolated during the Age of Strife. A high proportion withstood this cataclysm, for the knights offered matchless protection from hostile invaders. But it was not only the martial might of these war machines that preserved these colonies. It soon became apparent that the machinery by which the pilots had bonded with the knight suits had also altered their minds, instilling strong notions of fealty, duty, and conservatism. Their draconian rule eschewed new technology and psychers, helping to insulate their worlds from the dangers of the long night. Their defenses shored up and their watchfires stoked, these night worlds continued as they had for hundreds of years. During the Great Crusade, the Adeptus Mechanicus sought out these worlds and their ancient technologies, and bonds of allegiance were formed. Those knightly houses most closely aligned to the Adeptus Mechanicus are often called upon by the Martian priesthood to uphold these ancient pacts. Tech priests request military contingents from night worlds to accompany Titan legions, to join explorator fleets, or to aid them on missions to seize lost archaeotech. When a threat is deemed sufficient, knights are also deployed to help defend key planets, especially endangered forge or mineral worlds. In return for such military aid, the night worlds receive technological resources. To honor minor requests, a knightly house might send a single knight, or perhaps a lance made up of knights selected for the task in question. Occasionally, the Adeptus Mechanicus will decree that such seconded detachments must remain with a Titan legion permanently. In these cases, the nobles change their vows of allegiance and heraldry to reflect the legion they now serve. When faced with a severe threat, the princeps will march out with his exalted court, these heroes leading forth their entire household. These events are times of great fanfare, but given the increasingly hostile nature of the galaxy, they occur with ever greater frequency. Knightly houses aligned to the Adeptus Mechanicus are feudal and are organized in a manner similar to their imperial cousins. The ruler of the household is known as a princeps, and his decree is final. The rank below princeps is that of baron, and positions within this rank are still hierarchical, based on the individual baron's influence and battle experience. For his ruling council, also called an exalted court, the princeps will promote 4 barons. Known as Vos Prime, these individuals are second in power only to the princeps himself. Each baron will have a number of vassals beneath him, and it is their duty to muster should they be called to battle. The number and exact organization of these knightly vassals varies widely from house to house, depending upon the size and power of the knightly house itself. Regardless, when the summons to war is received, lances, groups of oath-sworn knights, and entire household detachments will be drawn from the house's strength. Only in unusual circumstances will the princeps, or one acting in his stead, choose to select only from a single baron's vassals. Let's see, we have knightly houses. House Raven. Like an endless wall of red metal, the knights of House Raven march forwards. A lone knight might shake the ground with its metallic stride, However, when House Raven deploys in force, the sound of that advance is far more ominous, a thundering tramp that sends even the most fearless of foes over the edge. It is said that when House Raven sets forth its strength, a power that rivals that of a Titan legion, that victory is sure to follow. The great arsenal of knights held by House Raven is unmatched. Deep within the keep inviolate, a stronghold so vast and well defended it can be compared to the Emperor's palace on Terra, lies the Vault Transcendent. Dug deep into the bedrock of the planet Colossi, its heavily shielded halls house hundreds of suits, each one ready to stride out to answer the clarion call of battle. Yet they would not be alone if they did so. Dozens of other households owe fealty to House Raven, swelling their might still further. House Raven first allied itself with the nearby forge world of Metallica during the early stages of the Great Crusade. Lord Gregor, Raven's ruler at the time, struck a deal with Metallica's tech adepts to ensure that his house had sufficient sacristans, artificers of a night world, trained and inducted into the cult Mechanicus. For House Raven, these specialists became known as the Iron Brotherhood. In return, Gregor swore eternal fealty to Metallica, a pact that remains to this day. The crest of House Raven depicts, on one side, their colossal adamantium-clad stronghold, the Keep Inviolate, greatest fortress of their homeworld of Colossi. On the other side is displayed the cog of the Adeptus Mechanicus, for it was to them, and specifically to the Forge World Metallica, that House Raven pledged allegiance. House Volker. Despite being one of the greater houses aligned to the Adeptus Mechanicus, House Volker is especially reclusive and mysterious. Their home world is Arius IV, a mineral-rich planet nestled in a crowded star system. It was to exploit the planets of this system and surrounding asteroid belts that the Forge world Vos Prime was established nearby. The bonds between Arius IV and Vos Prime remain tight, with the same golden-plated servitor creatures working upon both worlds, and the forces of each joining Mars explorator fleets that ply the depths of Segmentum Pacificus. The courts of House Volker are singular places, full of tech priests and servitors that speak encoded machine language and number sequences. They enact mechanical ceremonies that are, for the uninitiated, disturbing to look upon, their meanings unclear and vaguely sinister. The nobles of House Volker hide every inch of their flesh with robes, sometimes even wearing masks of gold. Outsiders are not welcome within their steel-clad fortresses. When called to war, the knights of House Volker leave behind their curious trappings, striding out to do battle with all the surety of their peers. They place a premium upon firepower and well-coordinated plans for both attack and defense. It was they who first developed the tripartite lance, a formation later adopted by all other houses. The gilded House Volker crest proclaims their wealth. Beyond the central diadem with the cog skull motif, none of the mysterious symbols are decipherable to any outside the learned, yet secretive servants of the cult Mechanicus. House Terraness. Due to its legacy and its homeworld, House Terraness stands apart from the other knightly houses, even from those in sacred alliance with the Adeptus Mechanicus. The Knights of House Terraness are integral to the military might of Mars, and are true servants of the machine god. It was on Mars that the first knight suit was ever created, just one of the many wonders of the age of technology. Terraness bears the honor of being the first knightly house, formed on Mars in that forgotten age, and furnished with the most archaic and earliest prototypes of knight suits. Uniquely amongst the armories of the knightly houses, however, the subtle mind-altering technology was absent from the throne's mechanicum used in Terraness's knights. House Terraness was the first of the knightly houses to join the nascent Imperium. Having never been forced to survive on a frontier or build keeps against the dark void, they were more akin to the Legio Titanicus than their peers from the night worlds. However, the civil war that erupted on Mars during the Horus Heresy saw House Terraness suffer near total losses. As the internecine conflict drew to a close, just 2 knights remained. Only incredible commitment and the skill of Mars's tech priests saw House Terraness survive its darkest hour and rebuild to be stronger than ever before. The crest of House Terraness bears the cog of Mars for the Red Planet. The first and foremost of all Forge worlds is its home world. The sword that divides the crest of House Terraness from the demigod of the newly named Adeptus Mechanicus was added in the wake of the Horus Heresy. House Crast. 10,000 years has not been enough to heal the bitterness that pervades House Crast. Still they burn, thirsting for vengeance upon those that betrayed them during the Horus Heresy. House Crast hails from the first night world to be rediscovered by the Great Crusade, a planet named Crisis. The nobles of Crisis show no hesitation in joining the Emperor, making them amongst the longest-serving allies of the Imperium, a fact of which House Crast remains rightfully proud. Since those days, Crast has ever borne the red of the Adeptus Mechanicus in its livery. The treachery of the Horus Heresy took a fearsome toll on Crisis, with the traitor titans of Legio Mortis the chief culprits behind the utter ruination of their home world. House Crast was the only knightly house on Crisis to survive the calamitous events. So great were their losses that only their proximity to Mars and the great support of the Fabricator General allowed House Crast to recover. Since that time, the nobles of House Crast seek the forces of chaos above all others, hoping to settle old scores and fulfill oaths sworn by every one of their ancestors. Despite this, House Crast still honors Mars and never shirks its responsibilities to its Adeptus Mechanicus allies, sending knights to any Forge world that requests military aid. In the wake of the Horus Heresy, the crest of House Crast was changed by the unanimous consent of its nobles. Instead of the lion rampant, the crest now depicts an iron fist squeezing the life from the serpent of chaos. And that is where we are going to bring this video to a close. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. I tried out making videos for Monday too, and I don't think I have the time or energy. So, we're going to stick with the 2 videos a week moving forward. Alright, I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.